to the March the 25th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Denison. Glad to have all of you with us this morning. It's customary that we begin our meetings with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. If you would care to join us, we'd ask that you would stand with us at this time. Father, we come to you today grateful for another opportunity to come before you and the city in order to conduct our business for our home. Father, we thank you for Denison and for the place that we call home, and we ask that you would be with us in our decisions today, that all of them would be done decent and in order as you wish. And we thank you again for this opportunity. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome everybody. We'll just do a little housekeeping here before we get started. The Planning Commission is a recommending body, so with the exception of site plans and plats, which are final, our decisions are final, all others will be passed on to the City Council for final approval at their next meeting, which will be, Ms. York?
April 7th.
April the 7th. So I think we have a zoning case on here that will be on the agenda for April 7th at City Council. On the public hearings, we'll give you the opportunity to come and speak either for or against this particular case. We'd ask that when you come to the lectern that you would give us your name and address for the record, please. And I don't see any sense in worrying about a 3-minute limit today. We don't have that. So that being said, we're going to move into the agenda, and we are going to go to the consent agenda. And do we have any errors, omissions, corrections, or anything that needs to be discussed? Any items on the consent agenda that need to be taken off individually? Okay, seeing none, then the chair will entertain a motion.
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I'll
Have a
second.
motion?
Second.
Second. Ms. Harwell had the second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Let's move into item 4, our public hearings. We're going to go to item 4A, and I will open the public hearing. Ms. York?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item I have for you this morning is a request to amend a current planned development overlay district. That ordinance is ordinance number 5172, and that development is called the Rosemary. The property is located west of Lillis Lane, kind of in between Lillis Lane and US 75. Based off of this picture, at the southeast corner is BMAC, just so you kind of have an idea of where this property is located. The property is currently under development. You can kind of see from this picture here, those pads. Those are residential pads. And the plan development accommodates both residential and non-residential uses, with the residential uses being on the east side and the non-residential uses being on the west side with that US 75 frontage. The plan development was originally approved by the City Council November 1st of 2021. Within that plan development, on the non-residential side, the base zoning district is established as local retail, and along with that base zoning district and the uses that are allowed within that local retail zoning district, there are specific uses that are allowed by right, as well as uses that are allowed with an approved conditional use permit. And so today, the applicant, the property owner, the developer, is requesting to amend that PD and that specific section of the PD to include the use of an automotive collision repair center in order to accommodate the development of a caliber collision. Within the agenda packet, I've provided a project narrative that the applicant provided, as well as a conceptual site plan that was provided for that caliber collision. Please note that today, the action is solely being taken on the amendment to the plan development to allow for that use. That conceptual site plan will not be a part of the PD. If approved by, or recommended approval by this commission, and then action taken by council as an approval, then the applicant will have to move forward with a site plan submittal that will come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval, given that this is a planned development overlay district. The future land use plan does depict this area to be developed in a mixed commercial manner, and the automotive collision repair shop use does fit this designation as mixed commercial. The site does fall within the highway overlay district, or the highway oriented and corridor overlay district. I will say that the way the plan development was written, I'm not sure that the development standards apply for this particular district. So if the commission feels the need to make a recommendation to include those standards for this site, I would ask that you make that within your motion. Outside of the development standards that are listed within the highway overlay, the site will have to abide by other development standards that are found within Chapter 28, and that's no open storage, appropriate screening. I think on their conceptual site plan, they have a chain link fence that may not be allowed, bays that do not face the frontage road or any public street. So there are a lot of other standards that they'll have to abide by, but if you feel it necessary, I would include that highway overlay standards within your motion. There are no additional deviations or exceptions that have been requested with this application, solely just the amendment to include the use. Given the compliance with the future land use plan, staff does recommend approval of the request, and I'm present for any questions that you may have, and I believe that the applicant is here as well.
Any questions of staff?
Yes. Would this approval, if approved, be specific to this site, or would this open this use out to other locations?
It would be specific just to this site.
If I could go back to the overhead again, I just wanted to make sure from what was in there, that's the creek and the tree line that you're talking about between residential and non-residential?
That's correct, yes, sir.
I have a question about the screening requirements.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, we can't dictate materials. However, if the current plan is to utilize chain link, obviously there's more of an open view of what could be on the other side of that. So how specifically does that ordinance define screening? Because security and screening can be two totally different things. So my question is there a way to confirm the screening requirements are more obscure as opposed to open?
I will say that between residential and non-residential uses, it has to be 100% screened. And then same thing from public right-of-ways, 100% screened. So if they intend to utilize an appropriate material that the zoning ordinance and the districts allow for, and it happens to be something like a chain link fence, it would only be allowed between the other non-residential uses or zoning districts. It would not be allowed between the residential portion, which is going to be their eastern side of their property. There is that substantial tree line there that per the PD is not to be touched. So there is that could also aid in their 100% screening, but when it comes to screening from the public right-of-ways and between residential uses, it has to be 100% screened. So that may be a masonry screening, or it may be additional landscaping to meet those standards.
And that was my point. However, even when there is a tree line, sometimes,
Correct.
in the winter, deciduous trees are not going to be as obscuring
Yes.
as they would be in the spring or summertime.
The tree line is an aid. It's not a means to an end.
Right, understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I can make sure I understood what you just said then, on the north side and the south side then, it could be chain link.
Potentially. I don't have that ordinance in front of me. The screening standards are listed within Chapter 28, and if I recall, I don't think chain link is allowed. I think it's a wrought iron fence, 100 masonry, something of that nature is what's required.
But that will come back to us before.
Yes, sir. Yep. It'll come through the screening, the facade, the site plan in general, the layout of the building. All of that will come through as a formal site plan submittal, which staff will review and provide comment on, but ultimately, the Planning and Zoning Commission will have the final approval on it.
So again, all we're doing today is amending the PD.
Yes, it's one of those items where I just want to make sure that we're looking at the bigger picture. And so just to know that approving or recommending approval for this use, there are additional steps that come at a later date, and just making sure that at the end of the day, we're all satisfied with what that development is going to look like.
Okay, any other questions? All right, is the applicant here? Name and address for the record, please.
Heather Rimmer, 1517 Marsh Ridge, sorry, Carrollton, Texas.
Okay.
I'm representing the developer, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, any questions of the applicant?
Yes,
Okay.
I would assume that the developer is aware of the requirements as far as screening and so
Correct.
forth.
Yeah.
I've seen several of the caliber collision, and I assume that's what it states in here that you're looking at. Typically, those look very nice, but then when I look at the one in Sherman, I don't really see that as something that we would be interested in at this particular location. Personally, I'm not so sure that's the highest and best use of the property.
Okay, no problem. Yes, we had a pre-development meeting with the city, and we've gotten all the standards and things of the overlay district and all the requirements. So we are fully prepared to do what we need to be able to go on the site.
Typically, what size building?
There's a couple different models. 16.1, which is 16,100, is usually the size of the building that they like to use. So it just depends on the size of the property and ingress, egress, whatever fits the best.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Anyone else here to speak on this request, either for or against? Yes, sir.
My name's Jeff Humphrey. I'm the pastor at Parkside Baptist Church, which is on the other side of Viking, which would just has just been extended to the access road there. That was made possible because our church gave up some land to make that possible because, again, I want you to know I'm a person of progress. I'm a person that believes that as we grow and we're going to grow, we need collision places. I've needed them before. So I'm thankful that they are there. And this is not anything on the collision place that's there. But I would say that, again, I too went over, and when I heard it was going to be the collision place that was also in Sherman, I went over to look or whatever, and I was not impressed with the way that they kept things on their property. There were cars that were parked on the street and back behind or whatever else, and it was piled up, and it looked like every other collision place that I've been. And I'm not saying that we don't need a collision place. I'm just wondering if we need it there because, again, right across Viking Lane is Parkside's property. We have 21 acres there right there, and that is prime real estate that I don't want people to not, if we need to sell or to develop or whatever else, I don't want that to be hindered because of what is across the street from that standpoint. And so, again,
I really don't think that comparing this facility to Sherman is an apples for apples.
Agreed. And like I said, I'm not here really with a yes or no. I'm just saying, hey, here's our concerns, because when it goes to April, we will have yes or no's from that standpoint.
We have the same concerns.
Yeah.
That you have, and I think we're going to address them. Some of them we're going to address this morning, others are going to be addressed whenever we come back in here for site plan approval.
Good.
Process. But I think the Sherman location, and I could be corrected here if I'm wrong, but I think the Sherman location was a rehab of an existing facility that had been there for some time. And so I think they have limited space as far as where, and of course, I'm sure that when that property was developed, Sherman didn't have any kind of overlays or anything like that.
Sure.
For 75, because it's been there for some time.
Well, like I said, the guidelines of the other streets, what's behind, again, when you are buying a place to revitalize a particular place that was used before, you want to revitalize in a way that's going to enhance things, not dehance them, if you will.
And so, and I think to some extent they've done that because, I mean, I've been around here since, well, transferred to AC in the 80s, so I kind of knew what that stretch of ground looked like years ago. So I think they have improved, but I think they're just limited as to what they can do. And I think once this is a new facility and new build, so at this point, we're going to be able to control that they couldn't control over there.
Good, and I hope that you will, because I know across 75, there was an act, which again, that's all automotive kinds of things, which I'm thankful for. But over there was a place over there, and the walls are up high, so you can't see what. But I have noticed that as I drive it all the time, there are things parked in the front that shouldn't be there, and we don't want to be somebody that's griping all the time. We want to do what we do, which is enjoy and with happiness and a positive part of our community. And the city, if the city says it's got to be this way, that's got to be regulated from that standpoint.
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of this group that we will go to whatever we need to protect
Good.
the visual, because we do understand that that's our highway overlay district. We don't want to jeopardize the image there. So, and then I can assure you that when it gets to council, they're going to be concerned about it. Because I do know of one case that came before us that was not a collision center, it was not a motive repair center, but we went down this same road. And I know what the feeling of the council was at that time. Don't think it's changed. And so we are going to take all that into consideration. I assure you that.
Outstanding. Well, like I said, I'm not here today with a yes or a no from our perspective, just letting you know we've got genuine concerns that we want to make sure are addressed and that we'll hold, everybody accountable to from that standpoint. Good job. Thank you very much.
Any questions of the speaker?
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here want to speak on behalf of this request, either for or against? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing, discussion among the commission. I personally think that the design standards need to be included in the motion this morning. I think if we don't do that, then this is going to have the appearance of a spot zoning case, and I don't think we want that. I want consistency along the 75. So my feeling is that we include those design standards for the overlay district on this particular piece of property.
That would be staff's recommendation as well.
My only thought, I agree with that. My only thought is remembering this is just requesting to amend the PD. This is our last real approach to our city coming from the west, with the addition that 75 is going to be in this brand new access road that we have. Is this what we want coming in from that side? Now, if you look on the other side of 75, it's very nice and whatever. If we ensure those standards are upheld, then I think that's okay, fine. But I understand the pastor's concerns, although I'm not sure where they would park it outside, since you got the access road and you got the road into the housing development there, where they could actually do, and you got the creek and the trees on the backside, so there's no place for them to park other than inside the facility. It's just that this won't be the first one. There's going to be other folks that come into the south of this, all the way down probably to Crawford.
Well, I think the design standards in the overlay district are going to protect us. I don't think we can go in and tamper with the use if the use is allowed in the PD as of
Right now, yes.
As of right now, it's up to.
So I think if you look at the site plan, you're going to see that probably 80% of all the parking is behind what's going to be a screened area, which means that all of the cars that are being worked on and everything are going to be parked and stored behind that fence. And I'm sure part of that's for security reasons too. So the parking in the front is going to be basically customer parking, maybe some office and employee parking as well. So, I mean, they're again. Let's let's be fair in this, since this is a new build, and we can, I think, I don't want to sound like we're dictators here, but I think we can control the quality of the project where it's not going to be a negative to the church, it's not going to be a negative to anybody developing south or north or east or west of it. So, I'm comfortable with approving the amendment to the zoning with the fact that we add the design standards for the overlay district to the motion and include them now in the PD.
I think just stating that you potentially recommend approval of the use with the highway overlay, correct? District, yeah.
Okay.
I do just want to add, this is a development that was approved prior to Diane and I being in the planning department. I do not believe that it's good practice moving forward to amend a use. If we are doing our job well, a PD should come to you with all of the uses as staff recommends to you and as the commission and city council want to see moving forward as we look at our comp plan and things like that. So considering highest and best use is something that we really have to take into consideration as those PDs come to us. This is an exception. I don't believe it's setting a good precedent, though, moving forward to amend uses for PDs, because when we develop that PD right off the bat, that is what we should be striving for, that highest and best use initially. Again, this one's an anomaly, but I do just want to make that statement on the record. If we are doing our job well and bringing that development to you in the way that we have been guided by council's priorities and by the commission's priorities, we should not be falling into these situations of having to amend uses moving forward.
Okay, make sure that I understand what you just said. I understand the concept and the desire and the appropriateness of not having to amend, but the staff does recommend this case.
In this situation, and Diane can speak to it a little more because she handled this one.
So right now, based off of the future land use plan, the comp plan, those are the only guidelines that staff has at this moment when it comes to determining uses for this particular area or any area rezoning within the city. And right now, the future land use plan calls out for mixed commercial along the 75 corridor. And yes, so we are making recommendation based off of that rather than off of opinions. So, yes, sir.
No, I was going to say, and of course, in our review of the comprehensive plan, we're going to address this
Yes, sir.
specifically.
Yes, sir, yes. And having a more modernized or maybe just a cohesive vision of what we want that corridor to look like will come through when we do those comp plan, when we redo the entire comprehensive plan, but additionally through our conversations with some ordinances that we're looking to amend or.
So I take Ms. Pate's point. Ordinarily, we would not, but I
Correct.
also take your point that in this case, staff recommends approval.
Correct, yes, sir. Thank you.
I have a question. With regard to the overall plan for this Rosemary development, and I know, I certainly hear what you all are saying as far as this was in the works a few years ago. So with regard to the residential component of this development, what is the density and the type of dwellings that to our knowledge, are intended for the residential component of this development?
So along the frontage, so the residential is already under construction.
Okay.
So along the frontage of Lillis, those are duplexes.
Okay.
And the larger pad sites that you can kind of see on this picture, those are multifamily units
Okay.
or apartments.
Okay, just confirming that.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yep.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I I move to recommend the approval of amending the uses within the approved plan development overlay district, ordinance number 5172, the Rosemary, to allow for the use of automotive collision repair shop as long as the highway-oriented and overlay district and development standards are adhered to.
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion with a second. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
I abstain.
Y'all get that? Okay, let's go on to item 4B. We will open the public hearing. Ms. York.
Thank you, sir. The next item I have for you is a request to approve a replat for the Belmont addition. You may have seen this site previously. There was a replat that was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission for this site back in August of 2024. The applicant or the property owner has come through again to re-subdivide the southern portion into 2 legal lots of record. Lot, as you can kind of tell from maybe from this picture, there is a single-family structure that exists on the property. Please note that these lines are not accurate. I have seen the exhibit for the structure, and it does fall within its own legal or its own lot lines. What the applicant is looking to do now is to subdivide the southern portion of this parcel into 2 legal lots of record with that single-family structure that I just showed you, living solely on what is called Lot 22R1, and they would like to develop Lot 22R2 in a single-family manner. The property is zoned single-family 5 residential, and the 2 proposed lots do meet the development or the lot size and lot dimension requirements within that ordinance. Both lots will front on East Murray Street, and they both have access to water and sewer. However, in order to provide sewer service to that proposed lot 22R2, there may need to be a minor extension that will be determined once the contractor comes through and works with Public Works to determine if that extension is needed or not. With that, staff recommends approval of the replat, and I'm present for any questions you may have.
Any questions of staff?
If they have to extend the sewer, it's not a significant issue.
I think it was 60 feet.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't put that in my staff report. I don't think it was very far, but they'd have to extend it down East Murray Street.
But the city has no issues with that.
No, there were no capacity issues.
Nor will they pay for it. All right, anybody else? Questions of staff? All right, anyone here to speak on behalf of this request? Either for or against? Okay, nobody? I'll close the public hearing, and that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the replat.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4C, we'll open the public hearing. Ms. York?
Thank you. Last item I have for you today is a replat request for the T Squared addition. Property is located within the ETJ along Karen Drive, east of town. The applicant is looking to kind of adjust lot lines to create 2 legal lots of record, both fronting on Karen Drive. Both lots will be provided water service by Star Water Supply Company, and they will utilize on-site septic systems for their sewer services, which they have already been in contact with Grayson County to get those permits pulled to install those septic systems. Staff recommends approval of the request, and I'm present for any questions you may have.
Any questions on this one? Okay, anyone here to speak on this request, for or against? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the proposed replat.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We'll go to staff updates. Don't have any staff updates. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned at 10:30 a.m.